Hello and welcome to Literary Notes, a podcast by the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. I'm your producer, Nathan Ureta. Today's a bit of a departure for Literary Notes. It's our first interview with an author of children's books. Amy Hevron is author and illustrator of the Tiny Habitats books, a series that takes a kid-friendly look at the homes of animals everywhere, from the prairies of North America to the bottom of the ocean. They're beautifully illustrated, meticulously researched, and of course, cute. Amy sits down with longtime library volunteer Rachel Glass to discuss her books, the research that goes into them, and the settings that inspire them. Here's their conversation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Literary Notes. I am here in studio with Amy Hevron today, and my name is Rachel Glass. And it's great to have you here, Amy. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. So just to bring everyone up to speed on our special guest today, Amy is an illustrator, designer, and children's book author. Her titles include The Longest Journey, An Arctic Tern's Migration, and Dust Bunny Wants a Friend. Her picture books include The Tide Pool Waits by Candace Fleming, Tree Hole Homes by Melissa Stewart, and Can You Hug a Forest by Frances Gilbert. She also illustrated Trevor by Jim Averbeck. That book received multiple starred reviews, and she is a two-time recipient of a portfolio honor from the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. She lives in Seattle with her family, and this biography alone has made me incredibly excited to have Amy with us so I can find out all kinds of great things and pass them on to you, dear listener. So, Amy, you are an illustrator as well as a writer, which is not always the case for many producers of books. So you're able to illustrate your own books. And the first question that I had was, I have interviewed in the past some other authors like Kate DiCamillo, who also has illustrations in her book. And when I had talked with her about that, she had said that the publisher is often known to assign you an illustrator. And I can't remember if I asked this clarification of even if you illustrate your own books. So anyway, I was interested in what the process is for how you have been allowed to illustrate your own books, or if you had intervention from the publisher saying, no, we want to give you this illustrator.
Yeah.
Talk
Yeah.
about that
Yeah.
a little bit.
Well, my background is as an artist and a graphic designer, so I actually came to books as the illustrator side of it. So I have a degree in graphic design, and illustration was a big part of that. So back in college, I was already tinkering with illustration, and that was when I first got introduced to picture books, like as an art form. When I was growing up, I didn't really read picture books. They weren't like a big part of my childhood. Yeah, I know that's kind of a weird thing. It was in college. It was one of my design professors brought in The Stinky Cheese Man by John Sheska and Lane Smith, who I love. It's the illustrator.
Love that book.
And that book just blew my mind. I just did not know that like new books were being made. This was back in the 90s, so back then it was new. And as an art form, I just thought this is like the perfect type of storytelling. And I loved painting and illustrating. So it was sort of this combination of writing and then doing the artwork. And then that it's a medium for children and for parents and teachers to read to children. Like it's meant to be read out loud. It's meant to be an experience. I just loved everything about the art form. And so then it took me a while. I was a graphic designer for about 20 years. And then I finally got into books. And I found my way there through the art. So I started doing like little fine art shows around town here in Seattle at coffee shops and stuff. And I was not realizing it, but building my illustration portfolio through those little wood paintings that I was selling. Because I was painting little characters and little flowers and whimsical scenes. And they seemed like they had stories to them just as little art pieces. Mm-hmm. And so when I was really ready to like take a stab at this, I put together a picture book portfolio and joined that Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. And that's kind of where it all took off. And so then over these last 10 to 12-ish years, I've really been working on the writing side because that's where I really needed the work. So I've taken classes and have critique partners, and now I'm sort of getting into this world of getting to write about the things that I would have loved to have books about, like little nature things, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But yeah.
Absolutely.
So that was a long answer to
No,
your question.
I love the long answers because it allows for some detail and nuance. So I'm very happy for you to expound at will. Please do.
Yeah.
Do you find that one is easier than the other? And I'm thinking of like the drawing or the writing. If one is easier or one is more fun or one is more fulfilling, like or less so. Talk about the comparison because you are doing both.
Yeah. I think it's evolved over the last 10 years while I've been making books. Like first starting out, figuring out how to I was just painting on a little wood block. How do I turn that into a whole book? So figuring that out was really fun and creative. And so on some books, I am still painting on wood and scanning that in and then working in Photoshop and digitally collaging stuff. So that process I really have nailed over the last 10 years. I've really kind of figured that out. Where the writing has become like the really how do I do this? So that is really fun for me right now. The figuring out how to write and how to get the ideas out of my head into a compelling story that kids would find interesting. So yeah, I think it's when it's still new and a challenge and I haven't quite figured it out yet. That's the most fun part for me. I would say, yeah.
And I also would imagine, and just because I have a daughter, and when she was little, she was a voracious reader and also listener of books. So I did my share of reading, and just looking at those books and looking at the format. And there's a certain number of pages, and then there's a certain number of words, especially depending on what age group you're targeting. How many words you have space for on each page, and how you have to put whole ideas into few words. It's like a haiku poem.
Yes.
How do you do that? I'm imagining that might be one of the challenges.
It is
winnowing down your main ideas.
It can be. For me, I tend to be more of a spare writer. I tend to underwrite, which I think a lot of newer writers tend to overwrite, and then they have to really cut back. But I tend to write more of a skeleton of a story, and then I really need to hang meat on there to make it interesting and fascinating. That has been my challenge as a writer, is to build it up more, because I have initial thoughts that are like, this is a cool thought, and it can read like a list a little bit, and so then me trying to figure out how do I make an interesting narrative here, and how do I add tension, and that's been my challenge. Yeah. But as far as words, picture books tend to be anywhere from 200 to 500 words. And then when you get into nonfiction books, like a lot of the ones that I write, they do tend to be more like 500 words. And then there's this whole back matter section. That's what it's referred to, is this whole couple spreads of just a ton of information. And it's more like 1,000 words, that section.
Is that what you put in the prologue, or what you put on the on your bio? Or
it's the content that's in the back of the book, and it's really for older kids or for teachers or parents that really want to dive in more and learn more about the subject matter. So it's really written more for an older reader, for sure. And then there's references are back there, and additional books are back there, and it's kind of where more research that that you're not able to fit into 200 or 500 words, it can go back there.
Gotcha. When you have an idea, what comes first, and how do you visualize it when you get the idea? Do you visualize it initially through the pictures, or initially when you see it, you see the words?
It's different for every book. So my first book that I wrote is mostly wordless. It's called Dust Bunny Wants a Friend, and that was more about, I had illustrated this cute little dust bunny. It looks like a bunny, so it's a cute dust bunny. But then, I tried to figure out what's the concept for this character, and it just seemed like, well, what would a dust bunny want? Dust bunnies cling to you. They cling to your clothes. They're they hang
out in the corners of your house.
They do, and then attack, they come up to you, and so I was like, I think Dust Bunny wants a friend. So then it was building that visual story, and it is mostly wordless, so it was just sort of different scenes. So that one was built from a character first, a visual, where other things like Log Life, which I think we're going to talk about, that is about a nurse log, which I'm just fascinated with nurse logs. So that was more about a concept. How do I write a story about a nurse log? And so it was more the words were first for that one, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, again, you've got options because you have both of these skills that you are in control of for the book, which is, I have to think that is really empowering for you as a creator of books,
Yeah.
that you have those options. You can think about the pictures, you can think about the words in your vision
Yeah.
and not have to sort of imagine what it might be if someone else were writing
Yeah.
those portions
Yeah.
of it. So, I mean, I imagine that is sort of a really kind of gratifying
It
aspect
is.
of
Yeah.
creating your
Yeah.
books.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah. You get to kind of build the whole world in a way. Yeah.
In your
yeah.
your vision,
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
that's great. That
Yeah.
is great.
Yeah.
You talked a little bit about the focus audience, target audience being children. What was it about children's books? And I know you touched on it a little bit, but are there any other like seminal events or something that really flipped the switch in your mind that you thought, oh my gosh, like
Yeah.
this is for me, and I really get a kick out of doing this,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
rewards me.
Well, I mean, since I wasn't a reader, I was more, I like to draw in color. I love to imagine. And so I grew up with a bunch of cousins, and I had just a very happy, delightful childhood. And so I think of that time as just being a really happy place to go back to. And as a maker of kids' books, it is something you do have to go back and think about your childhood, who you were as a kid when you're writing, like what would I have wanted to read? And so that's a fun place for me to get to go back to over and over again, to think about, what would little Amy want to, like what would she think? How would she interpret this log life story? So yeah, that's a piece of it. And also, I just think the art in children's books is just some of the most gorgeous art that's being made these days. And like there's just such a variety of illustrators out there now, and it's fun to get to read books nowadays and see all of that art, but also create that. And yeah, and then it gets to be paired with words. It's just really a magical art form to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that is really, and of course all the research that you've done. I mean, there is so obviously so much research that went into these, very, kind of a brief window. Here's this world, and you have packed so much information into that, and so much clearly that you've done your research about that. How would you sort of define the age range? Because there's a lot of information in here,
Yeah.
which doesn't feel like, for toddlers.
No, yeah.
But, I mean, the pictures are fun, and the little sayings and
Yeah,
the things
yeah.
and we'll get into this, the
Yeah.
characters talk. And
Yeah.
so this is very fun, and I think anyone could appreciate those aspects
Yeah.
of your artwork and
Yeah.
your vision of this
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. I think they tend to be, I think the publisher says they're for ages 5 to 8. I think that's kind of the range. So a little bit, so maybe first, second grade. I feel like that is sort of the magical sort of age for these books in particular. Yeah, so a little bit older. They go a little bit older for a picture book. Where Dust Bunny is wordless, so young. I think a lot of 2 and 3-year-olds love that book because they can get a lot out of it, and also it does have the word "hi" repeated over and over because the Dust Bunny is saying "hi," to all these new potential friends, and so it's something as someone that's a non-reader can start to recognize the word "hi." So yeah, that one definitely goes younger.
Like in Are You My Mother, which
Yeah.
is the recurring thing that the little bird keeps asking everybody because the little bird is looking for his mother.
Yeah.
Yeah. What sort of struck me a little bit in as far as content for kids are Pixar movies, which I have found are one of the theories that I have on why Pixar movies are so successful is that there's something in it for kids. The kids can enjoy, the action and the funny things that are physical comedy that's happening to the characters or whatever. But there's also a lot of grown-up jokes and references that I don't think little kids would even get, but the adults do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that being able to create a children's book that has something in it for grown-ups who are reading the book so that the grown-ups can have something to have fun with too.
Yeah.
And I kind of felt in reading your books that that's going on a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as like, the irony and the commenting and
Yeah.
of all the characters. And we'll talk about that in just a minute.
Yeah.
I wonder
there's some
if
humor
you have those thoughts, because I would even think, like, especially with Sunken Ship, that, tweener boys or whatever, 10, 11-year-olds who are into, sunk ships and treasure and all this,
Right.
I kept that's why I asked you what age, because I
Yeah.
was really trying to imagine, what, there is a wide range of enjoyment level.
Yeah.
And adults reading the book to the kids. There's a lot to learn in there. I mean, there's real grown-up information with dates and
Right.
regions and science and
big
environmental
words.
stuff and big words. Yes,
yeah.
and names of species
Yeah.
that I would think that older readers could benefit from or would be interested in.
Yeah, totally. And I do think some teachers use picture books even in high school as sometimes there's just concepts that a picture book can really nail that can help a teacher to then open up the conversation. So yeah, I do think picture books can age up to older for sure. And these, my hope is that the adult readers are enjoying them as well and maybe learning a little bit of something. I mean, definitely I've learned something in the process of writing
Oh my
all
gosh.
of these books.
I learned a ton that I didn't even know. It was really informative to me. So this is now more of a style choice that you have made in a couple of the books, specifically Log Life and Sunken Ship, is that you include what I like to call, this is what I use these words with my daughter, talk bubbles, which are just, it is the bubble with the arrow pointing to the mouth of the character who is saying those things. And that just goes through the Log Life and Sunken Ship specifically, where the characters, now, whether these characters are fish or sharks or anemone or coral reef bits or fungi, or in Log Life, fungi and mushrooms, and I mean, anybody's talking.
Everybody's talking.
Everybody's talking because they all have something to say.
Yeah.
And it helps to, it's not just commenting on what is happening in the action. It's like these characters giving their opinions. Like if they feed off of something that it's delicious and you describe what it's like. Ooh, it's gooey and tasty. And I mean, these are very human things. So, talk about this specific writing style, because this is not this is not everybody who writes this way. This is a very unique kind of an addition that you've added in.
Right.
And it's fun and whimsical. I don't know if we use that word, but I just felt how whimsical it was. Talk about that specific writing style and having those characters talk about their experiences.
Yeah. So on those two books, they're part of my Tiny Habitat series, which there's going to be 6 books total, and these are the first 2. And that is sort of a running element in all of these. So it was this concept of focusing on these micro habitats and how important they play, they play an important role in their bigger ecosystems, but they're things that are often overlooked, like a log, and the importance of a dead tree in a forest and all the little critters. And part of it, so my initial draft of this story, it was as a nurse log, and it was a quiet story. It did not have talking critters. And some feedback I'd gotten was that it felt really sleepy, and it felt like you're walking through a forest, which isn't bad, but it wasn't grabbing the attention of the reader the way it needed to. And so I thought about, I don't know, myself as a kid, and when I would be in the forest, I'm very imaginative and always thinking about all the little creatures and all that, and putting little voices to everything. And it was more, I think, the younger version of me, like kind of coming out in these and adding some playfulness to these and a lightness and humor to them. A lot of nonfiction picture books tend to be more serious and straightforward, where these, they have talking voles and talking beetles. And humor is an important element of it. And I think that was part of me merging like cute characters and their little personalities with the natural world. And I just kind of love that mesh of the two. Yeah.
And I mean, just my takeaway is that so much is going on that is not apparent to either the human eye or the human ear or the human whatever other senses the human nose, the touch.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would say that if, after reading this book and thinking about what is actually going on, the forest is not sleepy. I mean,
No,
honestly,
yeah.
not.
It's very active.
It's
Yeah.
active,
Yeah.
and I mean, there are just thousands of entities in concert working together.
Yeah.
And I find that to be very kind of, I wouldn't say loud, but I would say unquiet.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, that I think is fun to kids too, that to see exactly how much activity is going on.
Yeah.
And that is busy, and that is,
Yeah.
actionable. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I'm glad that whoever gave you the feedback, and maybe they didn't realize how important that their feedback was.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
let's not be sleepy because the forest isn't sleepy and
Yeah.
under the sea isn't sleepy.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
just that maybe we don't see it. Maybe
Right.
we don't hear it.
Right.
Maybe we don't smell it or touch it.
Right. Right.
Or taste it.
Right.
I mean, all the
Right.
senses. It's
Yeah.
very sensory forward.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
And I think that good on whoever said let's bring some noise to this story. So the outdoor and nature aspects that you talk about are very reflective, of course, of the Pacific Northwest. And for any
Yes.
of you listening who are familiar with the Pacific Northwest, you know what that is. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
people spend a lot of time outside. We don't have any choice, regardless of the weather. We just go, and
Right.
we love our summers because it's the very tiny window of sunny beauty.
Yeah.
But then there's all the snow in the winter, and then
Yeah.
in the fall with the change of colors, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of outdoor interest.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think we take advantage of that,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is fantastic. That's one of the things I love about living in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
So you talked about trips to the beach and snorkeling with tropical fish. I've in some of your biographical material. Have you lived in other parts of the world, or are you really a PNW girl?
Well, I am a PNW girl, but I was born and raised in Texas and still very much feel like a Texan at heart. And I went all the way through college in Texas and moved here in the late 90s. So I've been here a while. But it's still, I feel like because I'm kind of a transplant, everything is just magical to me here. When I see the mountains, it's like, they have mountains here, even though I've lived here almost 30 years. And yeah, going out into the forest and it's rainy and drippy and cool, like I still see, it's like,
And
it
green.
feels new and magical to me in some weird way. In Texas, it's very hot, and I sunburn easily, and summers aren't great for me. But I do love going to visit because to get the sunshine and that is nice to see. But here just feels like this is where I'm meant to be. And Log Life is a bit of a love letter to the Pacific Northwest and the Olympic National Forest, because I just love the Olympic Peninsula, and the old growth forests over there are just incredible. So there's some references in the back that sort of talk about the trails where I sort of got inspiration from for that one. Yeah.
And I'm guessing that maybe you have 4 more books coming on the Tiny Habitat series.
Yeah.
Is Texas going to figure into that
So
in any way?
so
Like desert life?
There isn't a desert one. There is a Great Plains one called Poo Pile on the Prairie. And it's about a bison dropping, because I'm also obsessed with bison. So that one gets the closest to, I would say, a Texas ecosystem. There's the one that comes out in February is called Bog Buddies, and that is inspired by the bogs, mountain bogs, and specifically those are in the Blue Ridge Mountains, so North Carolina. Let's see, what am I forgetting? Pool Party, which came out later this year. That one is set in Brazil, so it is in a bromeliad, which is kind of like an orchid. It's a type of plant that holds water in a tropical rainforest, and there's all sorts of life living in that little pool. So that's a Pool Party. And
I
then
was thinking the tide pools,
Oh
but
no,
I
yeah,
was way off on
no,
that.
yeah, it's this little ecosystem in a plant. And then the last one that comes out at the end of next year is Pack Ice Paradise, which is set in Antarctica, and it's about krill and all the tiny sea life under ice, and then how that feeds the whole ocean. So, yeah.
Why do you only have 6?
It was just
I'm intrigued now. At all
we could
of
keep
your,
going.
yeah.
I think, we pitched it as 6, and so we're going to stick with 6 for now and see how they do. And they just such fun to make. We just finished the last one. I just turned in final art for the last one. So yeah, it's been super fun creating them.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh!
Yeah.
I mean, it's I can't wait. I can't wait till those come out. So Amy Hevron, would you describe yourself as an environmentalist?
Yes.
As-
Yeah. I would say so. I love being out in nature. I love highlighting small critters and small, like ecosystems that maybe have gone unnoticed, things that don't get a lot of celebration. Like there's a lot of books about, wonderful animals like elephants and polar bears and big creatures, but I do love all the little creatures and all the stuff they're doing and taking notice of them. And I'm a birder. My husband and I are birders, so we love to be out and just sort of, and he does photography, so we're often just sort of hovering around some tree looking for warblers, and like we just like being in nature. So yeah, I would say I'm an environmentalist in that way. Yeah.
So talk a little bit about the importance of. I mean, do you find that the reason or a reason that you have written these books is to educate people? I mean, in light of where we're at as far as climate change and global warming, is that something that you think about? And like, I don't know, like I think about activism, and I think about ways that you might think about of having an impact in the world.
Yeah.
Like what's that piece when you're thinking about the books you write?
Yeah. I mean, climate change is very concerning, and the impacts that are happening on all these microhabitats and larger habitats, like that Pool Party story about the Brazilian rainforest. It was set in the Atlantic rainforest, which we really don't talk about a whole lot, but it used to be like the size of Texas, and it's now like, I don't even remember, it's much, much smaller than that. So yeah, definitely that has come to mind, and there's notes on that in the back of most of the books of like, here's kind of where scientists are with researching these things, and not so much as like, here's what you can do, but definitely I think shining a light on these ecosystems and educating in that way, like letting these be the hero. And I definitely feel like, like nurse logs with letting forests go wild. Like there's a lot to be learned from letting logs just be there, because there's all sorts of systems and animals that need logs, and in each one of these books, there's sort of a version of that. Yeah. And then, with this last one with Pack Ice Paradise, it's Antarctica and the ice and why we need ice, why we need the ice at the poles, because we do. And the little critters need the ice to survive. So, there's definitely that tugs at my heart. And you talked about interviewing Kate DiCamillo. I watched an interview with her once, and she said something to the effect of like, write to the hole in your heart. And that's what I'm doing. It's like there's a tug at my heart for the natural world, and just giving them a little bit of shine, and like letting people read about and learn about these ecosystems that we maybe didn't know about. Yeah.
And I mean, I think about if we're talking about literature comparatively, thinking about I'm going to just go from one to a crazy other side of the spectrum. So in The Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien talks about how the little hobbit who is small in stature and who is also unassuming and not very out there, the kind of the reluctant hero, that the small in stature and small in other metaphors ends up saving the world.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, what's that? The Horton Hears a Who, that idea of a person's a person no matter how small.
Yeah.
That idea that just because something is small doesn't mean it's unimportant.
Right.
And I was struck by that when I was reading your books.
Yeah.
That, and I wondered if you had thought about that the importance of small, the importance of specifically that these are needed specifically, not just that it's cool that look at all this stuff going on in this log, but that how many species are benefiting from this log, and how large the network is, like how far the ripple out is, because yes, you've got the big animals and the big creatures that we can see visually, but those creatures literally are supported by the smaller ones, and even down to the bacteria and the amoeba and the fungus.
Which talk in these books.
Which talk. Yes,
Clearly
everyone
they talk.
has a voice, and it's an equal voice. Do you think about that, or is that just something that I saw as the reader and I'm bringing it back to you?
I love that. I mean, I love Tolkien and I love hobbits, and I love that connection of, even the smallest person or the smallest creature has an important part to play. And that definitely is that these small little creatures in their little homes have important parts to play, even though we didn't really know they were even there. Yeah.
And I don't know if there's a lot of other books, which means talk about filling the hole. That you are putting books out into the sphere of readership that are bringing pieces of information to people that maybe they have never seen before in other books. I mean, that's amazing to me, that these books are kind of the pioneers of what helps our world to survive.
Yeah. You know what's really great is there's 2 other nurse log books that came out around the same time as Log Life. So clearly that idea was in the ether, and like the universe needed nurse log books to like come out. So this was one of them. They're all a different kind of perspective, and I think kids would probably love to read all of them like together, because you get a little bit of different information in all of them. So, you're right that there are not enough of these kinds of books, but it's very hopeful to me that they're starting to be made now. Yeah.
And it's not like you have to go to the Arctic to see something like this. It's not like you have to go to a rainforest. You can just go in your backyard. And we had in my family's house, in our backyard, we had a tree that started rotting and started breaking down. And In fact, we had to cut it down very urgently in an emergency because the branches were starting to
Yeah.
fall, and we almost
Yeah.
lost our house.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we left the stump
Uh-huh.
because it was it was going to affect the soil and
Like the
the
root
grade
system.
of the soil if the roots got ripped out.
Yeah.
And also there was just this giant stump, which is not like a nurse log,
Yeah.
but the idea that leaving it there is
Yeah.
going to continue. I mean, birds can keep coming
Yep.
to land on the stump,
Yep.
and
Yep.
squirrels and
Yep.
creatures, and also the fungi and
Yep. Yep.
the all the. I mean, it was really amazing the things that I learned about the benefits of leaving the stump
Yeah.
there. Yes, and of course, educating our next generation of young readers
Yeah.
to understand why it is so important that the things in our natural world are there for a reason. They have a benefit. They have
Yeah.
a purpose.
Yeah.
It's not just like, oh, there's some trees.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's so much more. I just anyway. I wanted to ask you about that.
And also, I guess my hope would be that it would interest kids to want to learn more too, like as they get older. Like maybe this would interest future scientists and future environmentalists to want to study these things or learn more about these ecosystems. So that would also be my hope.
Love that. I love that. So you advocate in your books for and folks, when you read this, you will see why. Amy is advocating for the importance of your readers to understand the common bonds between the human experience and the creatures and how they live. And I'm speaking specifically now about the ants.
The leafcutter ants.
The cutter ants.
Their
and
city.
The city of leafcutter ants.
Yeah.
How ants have societies.
Yes.
Talk about noise. I mean, we're talking about millions of ants.
Yes.
Doing their thing. They're not just crawling around. I mean, I know sometimes you walk down the street and in the crack in the sidewalk you see a little hill with a whole bunch of ants, and you're
Yep.
like, oh,
I
ew,
know. Get
ants.
away. Yep.
Get away. But like after reading this book, you will know that there are this hill is like probably one tunnel in an entire network
Yes.
of things going on.
Yes.
And they're not just crawling around randomly.
Yes.
They are like all
They're busy.
doing a very specific job. Please talk a little bit about that. I mean, there are entire ecosystems of what's going on. Why is it important for humans to understand this?
So with leafcutter ants, this is a specific species of ants that I first took notice of them. I was on a trip in Costa Rica. We were going on a hike. Beautiful birds, toucans, primates, all sorts of, animals that you go to the forest to see. And then we looked down and there's this little parade of ants carrying little leaf cuttings. So they're it looks like a parade of these little leaves flickering down like highways of these ants carrying leaves. And it just grabbed me, and I had to know more. What are they doing? Why are they carrying leaves? Where are they going? Why are there, and there are different sizes. So this species of ant, they come in teeny sizes to bigger, almost like thumbnail size ants that are more like guards. So I had to learn more. So I started researching, and I do love the process of researching these books. I think that is partly why I also write these nonfiction books, because I love just digging in and reading science papers and learning as much as I can about subject matters. So with this one, I learned that their cities are roughly I think is it 8 million? 8 million individuals, so roughly the size of New York City.
In one city.
In one of the nests. There's one queen, and she pretty much lives underground the whole time. And then, there's folks that just help the queen. There's folks that help the new little baby ants, the nursery. There's folks so usually the older ants are the garbage maintenance folks. So they have to clean out I don't know, dead bodies and debris and stuff, and take it to like a garbage bin, a little tunnel. And then there's ants that so this is they're descendant of a really old species of ants that came about, which is also fascinating, about 66 million years ago when the asteroid hit the Earth. So at that time, all the little underground creatures, like those things survived and were able to survive after that. So this species of ants sort of started to evolve and coexist with this fungi that they were growing underground. So it turns out these leaves, they are cutting and trimming all these leaves and taking them underground to feed them to this fungus garden, and then they eat the garden. So it's this like mutually
The
beneficial.
fungus eats the garden.
The fungus eats the leaves, and then the ants eat the fungus. So they're growing their food underground. So they're the first farmers on our planet. Fascinating. There's some of them that have I refer to them as pharmacists in there.
Yes,
because
talk about those jobs.
on their bodies they have like bacteria growths and stuff, and they're able to take that, like they're able to use that to ward off bacteria underground. So like diseases and stuff, it helps with them mitigate that underground in their cities. And then there's larger ones that just like dig tunnels, like they're the highway crew. And there's even bigger ones that have really strong pinchers that they will, if like a frog comes in to try to eat them, like a poison dart frog, that's one of their predators, they will, those dudes will go out and like get after the frogs. And so, all different sized little ants with very specific jobs. And it's really fascinating to me.
Oh my gosh! Yeah,
our ants here in Seattle are different. So I think all
they
different,
don't
different
have,
types. They probably
as organized a society.
It may be a little bit different. I know that they're not growing their own food, like they're not growing the fungus garden. But they are living in networks for sure, and they probably have different jobs as
They
well.
must be doing something
Yes.
because, again, I can't imagine that ants are just like hanging out and
Right,
just
right,
existing
right.
for no reason.
Right.
I mean, they must be. Now, when you're saying that the leafcutter ants have existed for 66 million
Yeah.
years, which means they outlived the dinosaurs.
Yes, yeah,
So, again, with this kind of quiet tenacity
yeah,
that they lived when the big dinosaurs
Yeah.
died.
yeah. Or their ancestors did. So they're
Right,
Yeah,
sure,
yeah,
sure, sure.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
as a species, they
Yes,
survived
Yes,
for that many million
Yeah.
years, tens of millions of years.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, if that isn't a example of tenacity and
Yep.
staying power, I
Yep.
don't know what is. I
Yep.
mean, you could put that up against any
Yep.
superhero or whatever that we can think of.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if that's why they created Ant-Man as a superhero because ants are so staying and so persistent and surviving. So back to the log life book.
Yes.
How many species would you estimate benefit from a fallen log, which is the nurse log?
Gosh.
How vast? Again, I'm thinking about this ripple effect out on the ecosystem. How outreaching is it?
Ooh, I don't know how many species, but I mean, it is from microscopic level all the way to the large elk that we see. I mean, it is everybody in a forest is going to benefit from a nurse log. Yeah.
I just can't. I feel like I can't overstate in my mind how important that is for the preserving and the saving
Yeah.
of preserving of
Yeah.
these
Natural
systems.
forests. Yeah.
Yeah. I just
Yeah.
feel like it's everything.
Yeah, and in Poo Pile, so that one focuses on Poo Pile on the Prairie. That one focuses on a bison dropping. So I don't know if you're aware, but kind of all over North America, they've started reintroducing bison into different prairie ecosystems. So I feel like it's been over the last decade or so. And in these places, they're seeing all sorts of things like wildflowers are coming back, like rare flowers, which then rare butterflies are coming back because their native host plants are coming back. So that book focuses on all the little critters that break down, like
And the
dung
flowers
beetles.
are feeding on the poo.
They are. It's fertilizer. Yeah, yeah. So basically, bison poo is kind of like the fertilizer of the Great Plains. And it is all that little microscopic detail and then dung beetles that are then spreading it as well and breaking it down. And then seeds can be carried in the dung, which is really, it can get it more, spread out throughout the ecosystem. And what else?
Which I imagine birds can aid
Yes.
in
Yep.
that spreading, because
Yep.
birds pick up things and then they fly and then
Yep.
it falls out of their beak or
Yep.
whatever,
Yep.
or it comes out in their poo.
Yep, yep. And then the birds attract larger animals. It's the same.
yes.
It's very similar to the nurse log story in that it starts with these small little critters and bugs that then attract the larger and the larger and the larger. Yeah, and then also it feeds the grass as well, so it helps the grasslands grow again. So it's really does help with the whole cycle of life. Yeah.
Yeah, that is just fascinating. Now, in speaking about Sunken Ship, which is another one of your tiny habitat books. So for me, reading this book, it was amazing to learn that a ship that sank in 1732 can still be a viable home for a whole undersea ecosystem almost 300 years later. What we think of as the end of a ship
Yeah.
is actually, that served the humans, but then, sunk,
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
However, this can also be, seen as the beginning of a new life for a whole world under the sea.
Yeah.
So, talk about that again. Like these are, we don't, for the most part. Like, we can go in a forest, anybody can go in a forest, but not everybody can go underwater
Right.
into the ocean
Right.
and learn about these things or see these things up close.
Right.
So that's where the books come in to help us.
Yeah.
How did you come to this? Because I know you snorkeled as a kid.
Yes. Yeah.
Have you gone on a treasure
No, but I would love to.
underwater thing?
Yeah. So this one and the idea of a sunken ship, I knew that even like in current times, they are intentionally sinking objects so that they can then become coral reef like structures.
Interesting.
Because they are finding that they are becoming kind of these like homes for critters. So with this one, I really liked the metaphor of treasure and a treasure ship, and then it becoming a coral reef, and that's the real treasure in the end, is all the beautiful life that is now supported because of this. So that's why I sort of picked this one particular ship, which was the San Pedro, which was a Spanish galleon that sank off the coast of the Florida Keys. So it is actually a site that you could go see if you went. You could go and snorkel or scuba dive to it. I personally have not done that, but I would love to. But yeah, as a kid, my family, we'd go on some trips and we went to Hawaii a few times, and I got to snorkel and see tropical fish up close, and it's just really magical to see all the life that's underneath the water surface that we don't even realize.
Anemones,
yeah,
and
exactly.
turtles,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
stingrays, and
Yeah,
there's just that's
yeah.
where I'm from, is
Oh.
Hawaii. So
Okay.
yes, I have done the same thing as you have.
Yes.
It's
yes.
wonderful.
It is, and you just don't, as humans just don't think about it. It's like you put your face underwater, and there is just like a rainbow of life under there. It's really magical. And so this one, with this book, it was finding the ship, which I found, like this treasure ship, this Spanish galleon. And then, it's really cool. You can go in the back. I have references for like where you can go on their site and see photos of like, what the cannons look like now. And there's very few, like it's the metal objects that still exist underwater, but they're encrusted with life and barnacles and all sorts of stuff. And yeah, the fish and all sorts of things use them as shelter when hurricanes come through. It helps because that part of the ocean is just really sandy, just like clean white sand. It's provided objects for life to cling to.
And what part of the world is this?
So this is off the Florida Keys.
Ah, okay.
So a place that gets hit by hurricanes a lot, and like storms that would really churn up stuff underwater for sea life. It gives them little cubbies, to hide away in. So yeah.
And do you? I'm now not remembering. Was that ship sunk due to a hurricane?
Yes, it was during a hurricane, and it kind of came. It sort of got washed into the shore too much, and it just got stuck in sort of the sandbar there.
Oh,
yeah.
So it wasn't like miles out at sea and it
No,
sunk 500 feet
right.
down.
No, yeah. But there are definitely instances of that where they've got deeper ones, and now there's all this life. They actually just found the Endurance, which was the Shackleton's ship down.
Wow.
It was like 3 years ago or 2 years ago.
Is that in the Arctic?
It's down. It's Antarctic. Yeah.
Oh, Antarctic.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they just found that, and it's encrusted with all sorts of sea life down there. It's just, and that's deeper, and but yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So fascinating. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I mean, and how you find your inspirations, where you find your topics.
Yeah.
That is just, I mean, what a fun job.
It really
that
is.
You get to just sort of wake up in the morning, get your cup of coffee or whatever you
Yeah.
drink in the morning, and then just start thinking, what would I like to
Yeah.
write a story about today?
Yeah.
And just let your mind go absolutely where it will.
It's a ton of fun.
What
Yeah.
a great job. How can I get into that line of work? Do you look at your books as a call to action or an alarm bell?
Yeah. I mean, definitely in my head there's alarm bells and fear and all of that. And I think I'm trying to channel that into hope, into look at this cool stuff that we've got here on our planet, and let's learn more about it. How do we protect it? How do we save it? How do we save every little creature? They all matter. And I am hopeful. I do tend to try to read the hopeful articles about coral reefs and everything that the scientists are learning about how to bring those back, and how they've been successful at like preserving whole sections of the ocean of like, there's countries, I think Australia is a big one, of like knowing how to like fence off in whatever way you do that, the ocean, of like, we're going to protect this whole section here. And I do feel like scientists and naturalists are learning more and more about animals all over the world, and how do we save them, and how do we save, these parts of the world. With wildfires, they do play a part in natural processes, and there's some books that I will be working on about, like in the grasslands, they are important. But when they're kind of out of control, like I do feel like we still have a lot to learn about how forest maintenance, and I do think that there has been more learned about that they do need to do some clearing and some cleaning to make sure that fires don't just get out of hand.
But not remove all the nurse logs.
Correct. Yeah. There's some happy balance there. I would say I am hopeful. I think humans are incredibly creative and get a lot out of being in nature, just in general. Like I think it is where we belong. We are part of nature.
And there's a lot of science data, like factual data about the benefits on our mental health, our physical health, from being in nature and from spending more of our time outside and in nature. I mean, that is just scientifically sound numbers and charts and graphs.
Yeah. And I think the younger generations are very in tune to all of that. And, they've grown up in this world of, we've always had an Earth Day. Like, they just grew up with, like, we're going to celebrate the earth, like on a day. Like it's just, there's things that the younger generations are just, it's innate to them. And that makes me very hopeful and they're growing up with books like this. And yeah, I am hopeful. Yeah. We're definitely at a crisis point, but we're learning and I think a lot of us are trying to take care of like how do we protect these places. Yeah.
And like the ants, we have to be like courageous and persistent to continue talking about it, which is why I'm so excited that you've got 4 more books on the way. I mean, this is you putting your footprint, your unique individual voice out into the sphere of readers who are going to be looking for questions to be answered and ways to keep all of this really wonderful and also urgently needed ecosystems, societies, because we depend on it. I mean, I know we may not be bigger than elk, but we, elk would also serve us for whatever food or whatever else, their poop that helps humans. And so we really do depend on these things. It's not just that they do stuff for each other. I mean, it really, I would say, ripples out to human beings as part of the ecosystem. Yeah. So I'm so happy that you've got these books out. Please go to any bookstore. Are these available at any bookstore or any online outlet where you can buy books? The books are that we are focusing on today: Log Life, City of Leafcutter Ants, and Sunken Ship. And there are more to come. So, dear listener, please go out and find these books that you can read to your young charges, and that you also can learn some things on your own to as you continue your understanding of our world and why it's so important to give deference to every creature on this planet. So, Amy Hevron, thank you so much for joining me
today. Thanks for having me.
And good luck with everything. Have a great book tour, and I hope to see you come back for the next one. I'd love to have a conversation about your upcoming books too.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, this has been great. Yeah.
Sunken Ship, Log Life, and City of Leafcutter Ants are in process in Braille and audio formats at the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library. You can find them in our catalog by searching for Amy Hevron, AMYHEVRON. We'll let you know in a later episode when they're available for download. If you have any questions or comments about the library, or to see if you qualify for our services, visit WTBBL.org or leave us a voicemail at 206-615-0400 or toll free at 800-542-0866. This episode of Literary Notes is a production of the Washington Talking Book and Braille Library based in Seattle, Washington. I'm your producer, Nathan Ureta. Thanks for listening.